When Calls the Heart stars Erin Krakow and Ben Rosenbaum reveal they are new parents. According to People magazine, the duo welcomed a baby girl in April.
Erin Krakow and Ben Rosenbaum just announced their parents. Isn't that sweet? Isn't that beautiful? A precious baby girl welcomed in April. They tell People magazine they say she's the greatest gift. They say they can't remember life before her. And look, I want to believe that. I really do. But you and I both know that's not the full story. Not even close. Because when a Hollywood couple, especially a Hallmark couple, waits almost 3 full months to tell the world about a baby, that's not a privacy decision. That's a containment strategy. That's a cover-up. And we all knew it the second we saw the headline. Here's the thing, though. People magazine didn't ask the real questions. They never do. They printed the statement like it was gospel. Our precious new family member entered the world in early April. Lovely words. Soft words. Words designed to make you feel warm and move on with your day. But I need you to stay with me here because what they're not saying is way louder than what they are saying. You know, just like I know that when two people in the entertainment industry hide something this fundamental, something as beautiful as a newborn child, there's always a reason. And that reason is never as wholesome as they want you to believe. So let's rewind. Let's actually think about this timeline because the math is screaming at us. They announced they tied the knot in 2026. Exactly 1 year before this baby announcement. 1 year. You don't need a calculator for that. A wedding in 2026 and a baby in April of 2027. That's a honeymoon baby, right? That's the Hallmark fairy tale. That's what they want you to picture. 2 stars madly in love, exchanging vows. And then boom, a little miracle arrives just in time for spring. That's the story they sold. But I'm not buying it. And I don't think you are either. Because here's what nobody's talking about. That wedding announcement last year. It came out of nowhere. No build-up, no engagement photos in People, no red carpet premiere of their love story. Just a quiet little confirmation like they were checking a box. And now, 12 months later, a baby. A baby they kept completely hidden until she was already here, already breathing. Already alive for weeks before they let the world know she exists. That's not how normal people operate. That's not even how careful celebrities operate. That's how people operate when they're running damage control. That's how people operate when they have something to protect. Or something to hide. Now, I want to be clear about something. This isn't about the baby. This isn't about that little girl. She's innocent in all of this. She's a child, and I'm not here to drag a baby into anything. But the adults in this story, the adults who control the narrative, they made choices, and those choices tell us everything. They chose silence. They chose delay. They chose a carefully curated announcement with soft language and gentle jokes about being tired and Erin now drinking coffee. Isn't that cute? Isn't that cozy? The non-coffee drinker finally breaks because of parenthood. That's a Hallmark movie line. That's not real life. That's a script. And this is the part that really gets me. You ready? They said, actually, let me rephrase that. They told People magazine, and I quote, "It feels like being parents together has only deepened our partnership." Deepened. Their partnership. Now that's an interesting word choice, isn't it? Not brought us closer. Not made us happier. Deepened our partnership. That's corporate language. That's crisis management language. That's what you say when your partnership was already under pressure and you need to convince the public that everything is actually better than ever. You don't need to tell people your partnership deepened unless people were wondering if it was shallow. And people were. People were definitely wondering. But before I get to the real question, let's talk about the dog. Yes, the dog. They joke that their daughter means Erin is no longer outnumbered by Rosenbaum and their dog Willoughby. Cute joke. Lighthearted. Deflects attention. Makes you smile. Makes you forget that you're being fed a carefully manufactured story. Because when you're really just a happy new family, you don't need a punchline about being outnumbered. You don't need to prove how balanced and funny your household is. You just share a photo and move on. But they didn't share a photo, did they? No photo, no name, no details beyond the bare minimum. Just a joke and a quote and a promise that season 14 is coming in 2027. Oh, and by the way, we had a baby. Isn't that something? Actually, wait, I need to slow down here for a second because I want to talk to you directly. Just you. Not the algorithm, not the comments section. Just you and me for a moment. I've been doing this long enough to know when something doesn't smell right. And this one, it stinks. It stinks in a way that makes my stomach turn. Because I think about that little girl. I think about her being born in April. I think about her first few weeks of life being completely invisible to the world. And I wonder why. I wonder who was in that room when they made the decision to keep her hidden. I wonder what they were afraid of. And I don't say that lightly. I don't throw around accusations. But I've seen this pattern before. I've seen it with other stars, other couples, other stories that started with a beautiful announcement and ended with something much darker. And I'm not saying that's what's happening here. But I am saying we need to ask the question. So let's ask it. Let's be brave enough to actually say it out loud. What exactly were they covering up? Because you don't hide a baby unless you're hiding something else. That's just fact. That's just human nature. If you're genuinely happy and genuinely proud and genuinely in love with your new family, you don't wait. You don't strategically time your announcement. You don't release it through a PR outlet with a carefully worded statement that feels like it was written by a lawyer. You scream it from the rooftops. You post the blurry hospital photo. You let the world share in your joy. But they didn't do that. And just like I know, that silence is always louder than words. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because the Hallmark channel, this beautiful, wholesome, Christian-friendly network, has a lot of power, a lot of influence, a lot of control over their stars' images. And when you sign on to be the face of a franchise like When Calls the Heart, you're not just an actor anymore. You're a brand, you're a product, you're a piece of a machine that needs to stay squeaky clean. So when something happens, something that might complicate that image, what do? You circle the wagons, you control the narrative, you delay the announcement until you can control every single angle. And that's exactly what happened here. This wasn't a personal choice. This was a corporate decision. This was a team of publicists and network executives sitting around a table and deciding when the world would be allowed to know about this child. That's not family. That's not love. That's a business transaction. And the most heartbreaking part, they named her. They know her name. They've been calling her by her name for months, but they won't tell us. They won't even share a photo. They gave us a statement about a dog and a coffee joke, but they won't give us her name. Think about that. Think about the message that sends. It says, "We trust People magazine, but we don't trust you." It says, "We're happy, but we're also afraid." And that fear, that's what we need to talk about. Because what are they afraid of? What are they hiding from? Because it's not the public's love. We love babies. We celebrate babies. We would have celebrated this baby with open arms, but they didn't let us. They chose to hide her instead. And that's not an accident. Not an accident at all. Let me connect some dots for you. Because this doesn't exist in a vacuum. This is happening at the exact same time that Hollywood is under more scrutiny than ever. The same time that major networks are being exposed for covering up everything from abuse to affairs to outright exploitation. And here's a Hallmark couple, a network that brands itself as the moral alternative to everything else in entertainment, doing the exact same thing, hiding, delaying, controlling, protecting themselves instead of protecting the truth. And the reason for that, well, you'll see. Because when you start pulling at one thread, the whole tapestry comes undone. And I think we're about to see a lot more come undone. This wasn't just a baby announcement. This was a test to see if we'd buy it, a test to see if we'd smile and nod and move on without asking questions. And most people will. Most people will scroll past, like the photo, and forget about it by dinner. But you won't. Because you're here. Because you see it. Because you already suspected something was off the moment you saw that headline. And that's why I'm telling you this. Not to ruin anyone's happiness. Not to attack two new parents. But to remind you that the system works the same way every time. They hide, they deflect. They joke about dogs and coffee. And we're supposed to clap and say congratulations. But I'm not clapping, I'm asking. I'm asking why a baby had to be a secret. I'm asking why a family had to be hidden. I'm asking why we're expected to celebrate a story that's missing half the pages. And I'm asking you right now, in this moment, what do you think they're really not telling us? Because, just like I know, there's always more. There's always something buried under the pretty words. And I want to hear what you think. I want to know if you felt it too. That thing in your gut that said this isn't right. So go ahead. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm overthinking. Tell me it's just two happy dads and a baby and a dog named Willoughby. But if you're honest with yourself, really honest, you'll admit you already knew. You knew before I even said it. You just needed someone to say it out loud. And I just did. For her. For that little girl. And for every other story they think they can bury under a smile and a press release. They can't. Not anymore.